So speak life, when the sun won't shine and you don't know why. Look into the eyes of the broken hearted, watch them come alive as soon as you speak hope, you speak love, you speak life.
Hi there and welcome to Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith, and I'm so honored that you are joining us today. This is a show we do every single week at this time. Today's episode brought to you by Malone Dentistry. We attempt to meet people who have gone through difficult situations and found victory in the process, found Christ, and found the hope that He offers. And also we talk with people who are called to help others, and sometimes that could be the same person. One thing could lead to the other. And that's the common theme of this show, is when you're going through a struggle, the thing that makes it most difficult is the lack of hope. If a situation looks hopeless, then that's when we fall apart. And it involves being desperate. It also involves things that might numb the pain. And if you have a difficult situation going on right now, remember, you will not find hope anywhere else but through Christ. And you will always find that common theme in the people you meet in this show. And I'll tell you, I'm so blessed by the people that I am able to meet through this show. The guests that have come on have intriguing, inspiring stories. And every single one of them will tell you that the hope that Christ offers has given them strength, has given them comfort, joy, peace, and probably most importantly, a purpose. In the studio with me today, I'm so honored to have Jonathon Geppert with us today. Jonathon is a counselor, a teacher at True Purpose Ministry.
Right.
How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing today, Tom?
Oh, man. So blessed I don't understand it sometimes. And God is so good, and I love your story. You're a graduate of True Purpose Ministry, if that's the right way to say it.
Yes, I'm a graduate. I spent 18 months in True Purpose
through the
Ministries.
program.
I did in the program, and it's a 12 to 18 month program. Typically, 12 months is completion, but 18 months is what's called above and beyond, and that's actually a graduation.
Okay.
So I did the whole 18 months.
That's awesome. Now, through the program today, we're going to understand what True Purpose does. We had Russ Owens on not too long ago, and he is part of it as well, and his inspiring story. He led me to you, because you also are a person who went through it, and I'm so excited about talking about True Purpose because it's helping so many people. So what I want to do first, Jonathon, is kind of get a glimpse of your history. You were born in Chattanooga.
That's correct.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I was born in Chattanooga in 1985. My parents are from up north, New Jersey, but they moved to Chattanooga right before I was born.
Okay.
And I'm a middle child. I got a brother that's a little bit older and a sister that's 4 years younger than me.
Okay. I'm a middle too.
Right.
There's pressure in that.
There is a little pressure there. It seems like the middle always gets to experience a little bit different perspective than other people do.
You look up to the older one, and you're trying to be an example for the younger one, and so that's kind of an odd place to be. But it's also very blessed as well.
Right. Well, I always took the blame for a lot of things too. So,
Yeah. So, and I understand that your parents split up.
They did. When I was 4 years old, they divorced, and almost right away, my dad remarried, and the woman that he remarried, Charlotte is her name. She has 4 kids, and at that time, the 4 kids ranged from the ages of 2 to 7.
Okay.
And there was 3 of us, so we would go visit my dad every other weekend, and it would be 7 kids in the house. It was like the Brady Bunch.
Oh my, yeah. Trying to stand out in that is a difficult thing. Yeah.
Right, very challenging. But the one thing that always my dad was just very always had a relationship with God. He got saved at 19 years old, I believe, and
Yeah.
he had a very tough time going through school. Was dyslexic, couldn't read or write until he was 19 years old.
Wow.
And so, but he did found God, and so he always displayed that. It wasn't always perfect. There were a lot of 7 kids in the house. You have a lot of knockout, drag outs
Sure.
that go on and everything, but he always always looked up to God, and I saw miracles happen when I was young, just being a part of that. But
Nice.
it wasn't really my relationship with God, though. I just saw it from as a spectator.
You saw the example, right?
I saw
Is
the
this-
example, but it still didn't touch home with me because it was like I was always able to almost say, oh, this is why it happened. It was coincidence or something like that.
Sure.
Because it didn't necessarily happen directly to me. But
You didn't buy into it just yet.
right, not just yet.
Yeah.
I
But
was a
you
little-
moved around a lot.
I did. It was tough. My mom was a single mom for a little while, and so I actually moved with my grandparents for a little bit, and then finally she got remarried, and we moved, and then I went and moved with my dad, and he moved to Mississippi, and I moved. I went there with him for a little while, and it was always tough being in that house with him too, because all the kids, and it was almost like your dad against your mom,
Oh, boy, yeah.
oh, that's your son and everything.
Oh,
but
that's hard.
that is tough. And so I ended up going to 16 different schools because of that.
Holy smokes! Now 16
16, yes.
from until you graduated high school.
Right. And that started very early. I did go to first grade and half a kindergarten and first grade, or all of kindergarten and half of first grade, the first school, and then after that it was like 2 or 3 schools a year, up until I was about a sophomore in high school.
Oh, talk about how difficult that was.
It was very difficult. It was, always. If I had made any friends, was always being taken away from them on a moment's notice, and so it was like there was never any closure. And
Man, you just went on. And,
just went on. I actually got to the point where I just stopped unpacking boxes when I got places, because I figured I was going to be leaving soon, so I might as well not.
Wow.
And I got to where I wouldn't even do any schoolwork, because I was like, well, that project's coming up 2 months from now. I won't even be here, so I might as well not even do the project.
start it.
Right.
Oh, gosh.
And so it kind of just put me in a weird state of mind. Always being the new kid, always being reintroduced into a new classroom. Very self-conscious. It got to be I was very self-conscious because of that. I became almost a laughing post, or a child that people could ridicule, because I wasn't in anybody's group, so I stood out,
Sure.
like a sore thumb.
Nobody there to protect you, stand up for you, and just an object of finger pointing.
Right. And also, my mom, she called me an accident waiting to happen. I always found a way to get into some sort of situation where I was getting hurt. Or,
Oh, man.
In fact, when I was in second grade, I actually got hit by a car.
Oh, no.
And had to go to the hospital, and my head was like the size of a cantaloupe. It was very tough, and and I didn't at that time, I didn't think anybody loved me. I was just through so much rejection and stuff like that. And that actually, was kind of like, hey, people love me. They're coming to see me in the hospital, So
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, this is a source of attention for sure.
Right.
But that was short-lived.
That was short-lived. After that incident, and I remember it to this day, like I'm seeing it right now. I passed out on the pavement, and it was in the school, right in front of the school where it happened. And I looked up when I woke up, came conscious. I woke up and I looked, and the bus was riding right beside me, and all the kids were looking through the glass down at me, and it was just like I see it to this day, and it was so surreal.
Yeah.
But and then but going back to school after that, it was just like, oh, he's the kid that got hit by the car.
Right. That's how you got identified all of a
Right.
sudden. Oh, man. So from there, where did life take you? You graduated high school, probably kind of isolated.
Well, another thing happened before I graduated. Right before I graduated, actually, I was playing football, and I was gonna actually had a plan to go into the Air Force.
Okay.
And So that was my plan. I was running like 10 miles a day. I was in great shape. But I had, you have a physical and everything before you're actually, proved to go. And the doctor, the Army or Air Force doctor, he heard a murmur in my heart, and he said, "Well, your enlistment has to be put on hold right now until we find out what that is." So I actually ended up going to Johnson City Medical Center and having an EKG and stress test and all that. And they determined that I had a bicuspid valve, which I was born with. It was missing. My aorta valve was missing part of what causes it to work properly.
Well, there's only one way to fix that.
Right.
Knife.
Yeah. So I ended up having open heart surgery. I had a cadaver valve placed in me, so it was a human valve. I didn't have to take any anti-rejection medication or anything like that. Everything worked out. God had His hand on me, even when I really wasn't even seeking Him or even had a desire for Him to have His hand on me.
Yeah, He saw potential in that.
Right, and actually,
as He does in everybody.
And really, I was really mad at God actually at that point. I felt emasculated because of that situation. Didn't get to finish out my high school like I wanted to, and I didn't get to go in the Air Force like I was planning. So
sure, yeah. So all the plans you had and the vision you had of the future all of a sudden was ripped away.
Right. So I really had nothing I was looking forward to at that point in time, and then the recovery process was just agonizing, and so in that I was prescribed pain medication.
Okay. And this was before you graduated high school?
It was, the surgery took place before I graduated high school, that's right. Okay. I actually did get to recover in time to walk across the stage to receive my diploma. But, I started taking pain medication for the pain because, that was just obvious pain. But, there was a void that pain medication filled in me because I had a lot of pain, not just physical pain, but I had a lot of emotional pain.
Sure. Now, describe that real quickly. What was the emotional pain?
Just never feeling like I fit in anywhere, always feeling like an outcast, always on the outside looking in, so to speak. And so there was a void. And then, with my parents getting divorced when I was a young age, I didn't have the relationship that I really wanted with my father.
And there's anger involved in that, too.
There is. And, he just didn't know how to connect with me. With my older brother, they had a connection and a bond that came really easy. So it was I was just different. And so it was almost like, well, I don't know how to connect with him. And so didn't really, not that he didn't want to, but, it just wasn't there. And so I missed that. I just always wanted a relationship with my father. And I didn't feel like I had it.
It wasn't there. Right.
Right.
So that sets the stage for us because life didn't improve after that. It went a different direction, and we're going to uncover that and see where God actually put His hand on you and helped. This is Dealing with Life. We're talking right now with Jonathon Geppert, counselor, teacher at True Purpose Ministries, and we'll uncover quite a bit of a really great redemption story. I'm Tom Baker. Today's show is brought to you by Malone Dentistry. Life is hard enough without having to worry about going to the dentist and feeling comfortable about who you're going to see. Malone Dentistry, family and restorative dentistry, is where I've been going for the last 20-plus years. The reason that I've been going that long is because I feel comfortable with them. I trust them. They're honest. They have experience in every possible problem that you might have, and they offer true personal care. Malone Dentistry is right off of Kingston Pike on South Peters Road. Not only is Dr. Stephen Malone there, who has extensive training, and his bedside manner is unlike any other. He is a teaching type person, so when there's something going on in your mouth, he wants to teach you not only what it is, but what you can do about it and feel good about it and preserve your teeth for the rest of your lifetime. Not only is he there, but Dr. Aaron Noble is there and Dr. Michael Costa Jr. They're both new to his dentistry, but all the same, they have tremendous experience. You'll love them. Malone Dentistry, KnoxvilleSmiles.com. This is Dealing with Life. We'll have more with Jonathon Geppert in just a few minutes.
There's no distance too far. I can reach you. Doesn't matter.
are listening to Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker. Very honored to have you with us. I'm author of One Dog's Faith. It's a book about life, and it's a book about a dog's perspective on how to be happy. Have you ever noticed dogs are always happy? The tail's almost always wagging, and if it isn't, it will be in just a few minutes. And I tried to uncover a little bit through a dog's perspective how to be a little happier with life, a little more content, a little more understanding, and not worry so much. I struggled so much with worry, and my dog actually helped me find trust in God and His preference for my life. One Dog's Faith, available through Amazon, available through Cokesbury.com, also locally at Farragut Pharmacy, Village Exchange, Long's Drug Store, and more. Today's program brought to you by Malone Dentistry. And in the studio with me is Jonathon Geppert, a fascinating story. He is a counselor, a teacher at True Purpose Ministry. You're also a songwriter. You're also a musician, a writer, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I want to continue your story. Just a quick recap. You went through 16 different schools before you graduated high school, as well as open heart surgery right before you graduated. So let's continue the story there. You talked a little bit about finding pain pills as filling a little bit of a void. So where do we go from here?
Right. I had a lot of built up inside of me, a lot of hatred, a lot of anger, really, at God, anger at my family, anger at everyone, just because I felt like, for my brother and everything came easy. Everybody that I really knew, they were able to just do what they did, and it just came easy. But it seemed like there was always an obstacle in front of me.
Sure. Now to recap, also, your parents divorced when you were 4.
My parents divorced when I was 4. My dad got remarried. He's been married now for almost 30 years, I guess, to Charlotte.
But you had a difficulty connecting.
I did. I had a difficult time connecting, and then he ended up moving, out of state. And I did move with him, but then eventually moved back with my mom. She was remarried too by this time, and everything. But and that was difficult too, because the man that she was remarried to, he was very stoic, very unapproachable. Almost sometimes.
It's hard, yeah.
And so
you just felt isolated from everything.
Isolated, right? Yeah. Without it really a purpose,
Yeah.
My identity was just I really didn't know who I was.
Yeah. You wanted to go into the Air Force.
Wanted to go in the Air Force. I had a plan. I was going to go to Germany.
Right.
I've got German roots, and so I really wanted to. I took German, 2 years of German before that was my plan.
So you were really preparing for that.
I was ready.
Through the heart surgery, you couldn't do that anymore.
Couldn't do that. And so in the midst of that, of course, being prescribed the pain medication, and I discovered that it really made me forget about the emotional pain that I had. Wow. I didn't have to think about it, just numbed it. And so I was like, well, if 1 is good, then 2 is better. And so it became like that. And then, of course, I eventually ran out of my prescription and everything, and I didn't really dabble or to try to find that. I just kind of accepted that, and I went on about life at that moment. And I found a job. I was making really good money, actually. Had a great job. A district manager for a merchandising company.
Oh my! Okay.
Traveling all over the state of Tennessee.
Yeah.
Had 28 Lowe's stores that I was involved in.
Nice.
And but during that time, I had gotten into a relationship, and it was a 3-year relationship, and we were actually supposed to get married, and about a month before that happened, it all fell apart, and so here I was. I found myself kind of almost reverting back to the emotional pain that I was going through alone, no one to talk to, and isolated, and so I just, after work one day, at that day I went to the store and I bought a 6-pack, and I just kind of drank that night, and it became a pattern, increasingly, doing that exponentially got worse.
Sure.
And then
because everything you saw, the marriage, all those plans, and all that excitement ripped away.
Right. So it was like I was starting at square one again with really nowhere to. And then God's like, where are you? Why? What's the purpose for all this?
Sure.
And so I actually, I picked up a guitar one day and started playing, and then got into a band and was actually, touring all over the place and playing shows and everything.
Goodness.
And in that, I was always in that atmosphere with the alcohol and the drugs and just all that stuff, and really didn't have to go looking for it because it was always kind of brought to me and was always there. And so I just started really kind of immersing myself in that. And
it became your lifestyle.
It became my lifestyle, and I would go in and out of that. I would kind of get clean for a little bit, and then but it never seemed to last. And I would go to church for a little bit, but then I would just kind of fall off. And it always seemed like how it's like default setting. I always go back to every time it started getting good, I would just go back to default, and here I was again.
Well, the pain didn't address it. It was there, and that erased it for a while.
Right.
But it came right back.
Yeah. And so eventually I was actually had a job just delivering pizzas, and I was drinking and driving, delivering pizzas and getting drunk. I mean, blackout, where I didn't even remember delivering pizzas that night. And then here I am at home, like, what, how did I get home and all this other stuff.
Scary, yeah.
And so eventually that, I ended up, I guess, getting pulled over, and blew like 3 times the legal limit. And got a DUI.
Yeah.
But there were countless times before that, for years, that I would drive erratically, 120 miles an hour down the road, and never, always
Not
eluded. And no police or anything. In fact, a couple times I got stopped by the police when I was drunk, and they let me go. And so it was like, I thought that I could.
You were invincible.
I was invincible or something. I didn't know what was going on, but. Eventually, God had enough mercy on me that He allowed me to get pulled over one day and taken to jail.
It's such an interesting way of looking at that, because some people would think that was, how could you let this happen? And truly, it is a mercy, because He probably not only saved your life, but somebody else's.
Yes, and I'm so blessed that I never hurt anybody during all my just crazy times like that, and so He kind of said no to the direction I was going in, and just, there's grace in the blue lights,
Oh, yeah. There's an obstacle. It forces you to think.
Right. And so
did that end your job with pizza delivery?
Oh, that, of course, lose your license for a year,
right?
You get a DUI and everything like that. But it was in that actually I was actually put in jail, and there I was, like, and so my mom's pastor at the time, he actually came and visited me, and he actually mentioned True Purpose to me, and while I was sitting there in talking to him in jail, and said, I believe, you need some help, and at that time, I agreed to it because I just wanted out of there.
Sure. Yeah, whatever. I'll take it. If it gets me out of here, I'll do it. Okay.
Right. So it wasn't because I had a desire to change at that moment.
Sure.
But it was something that was placed in front of me, and almost like a divine appointment, if you will.
Oh, absolutely. I totally believe that.
Right.
You just happened to say yes, but you kept your eyes open.
Right.
Through the process.
I did.
So talk a little bit about your involvement. What happened at True Purpose that caught your attention?
Well, I went to True Purpose in Maryville, and I was there for about 4 months, and I was made a leader and everything, but nothing really had changed in me. It was just I was sober.
Okay, so and you lived in their provided housing?
I did.
Okay.
I was inpatient program. I was on the premises, and that I was doing landscaping and stuff during the day. But
so they provided work for you.
Provided work and everything with accountability and all that. And I came back, but eventually I was able to take a pass, a weekend pass. So I went to my grandparents' house, and while I was at my grandparents' house, I opened the cabinet, and there's a bottle of pills sitting there.
Oh my!
And I battled with it back and forth, but eventually, I gave into it. It was just because I was so used to just that thought process. And I ended up
Well,
going,
how harmless could that be, right? That's what your mind tells you. And that's what the devil tells you.
Right.
One
And-
time, come on.
and I thought I could get away with it. You
Yeah.
know, I could, which I went back. I actually hit it, went back, passed the drug test, and then ended up taking it. And then, of course, when you're in a house full of sober people, they know, who's not.
They
And so,
can spot it pretty quick, yeah.
But anyway, failed a drug test and was kicked out of True Purpose.
Oh, my.
Yeah. And so,
So that's a stipulation.
right.
You got to stay clean.
Oh yeah, you got to. If not, and Russ Owens was actually the guy who asked me to leave. He evicted me.
Wow.
But he,
I'm sure it wasn't with a smile. I'm
No.
sure he was sad.
No, he was, and he saw something in me though that, and so usually they will when someone is evicted because of drugs, they're asked to leave at least for 30 days. But he told me I could come back in 2 weeks.
Okay. Oh,
And
wow.
so,
Okay, that's helpful.
And so it was
That
helpful.
gives you a little bit of hope.
It
Yeah.
did, because while I was out there, I was like, okay, something's got to change here. And I actually didn't do anything while I was out those 2 weeks. I stayed clean and everything, and came back into the program. And it was actually Leap Day. It was February the 29th when I came back in the program.
What year?
2016.
Okay, so not that long ago.
Yeah, 2016. And so in that, True Purpose Knoxville was just starting to open up then, and I was actually the first group of guys who actually went from Maryville to Knoxville.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so kind of started, in a way, True Purpose Knoxville, and went through the program, and was doing the culinary arts program at the convention center during that time.
Yeah.
And
That's just fascinating to me that not only is there recovery and not only is there accountability through the group meeting, but they put you to work. They help you find things that can give you purpose.
they do, and part of that is just accountability is big, and setting boundaries for yourself, but also finding a purpose, and not just letting let me back out there without really a purpose or anything. And so, but really the purpose that I found in it was not what is my purpose as far as what skill am I good at, what job am I good at, but really who my identity was as a son of God.
Wow.
And because I was raised in church, I've been to church and everything like that, but it was always religion versus
It was always from a
relationship.
distance. Yeah.
Yes.
You saw the possibility of what a God could be, and I'm sure you even went through the motions.
I did. I went through the motions, and in the midst of me getting kicked out and then coming back in, and then I was going to culinary, and then eventually, like, two of the guys that I was going to culinary with, they left, and so I couldn't go by myself, so I had to be, they sent me to the Lost Sheep Ministries, which I was working there before, but it felt like a step back for me at that time,
right,
and I was
right.
really struggling, and I was like, Lord, what's going on here? And but God chose to speak to me and really reveal to me some revelation in that, and almost where I saw my value as a son. Whereas if I was going in the motion that I was going, or direction that I was going with the culinary,
he put a bookmark there and said, "Here, dude, this is what I'm all about."
right?
And and that's an interesting part of your story, because we always want to imagine moving forward and finding that purpose and everything turning out right. And he stops and says, this isn't going to work this way. I need to find you. I need to find you to find me.
Right.
And that's where it happened. It's Jonathon Geppert with me today. He's now a counselor and a teacher at True Purpose Ministries. This is Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker. We'll talk with Jonathon Geppert more in just a second. Today's program brought to you by Malone Dentistry. Let me ask, are you comfortable with who you are using as your dentist, who's treating you to hopefully preserve your teeth for your lifetime? I'll tell you where I go. Malone Dentistry, family and restorative dentistry. I've been going there for 20 years. They treat me like a member of their family, and they'll do the exact same with you. You'll get honesty. You'll get experience. You'll get personal care from Malone Dentistry. Dr. Stephen Malone, along with his team of 15, as well as the new dentists they have there, Dr. Aaron Noble and Michael Costa Jr., will provide the best that dentistry has to offer. Their goal, to minimize extensive dentistry later, to give you a healthy, vibrant smile. Malone Dentistry is right off Kingston Pike on South Peters Road. For some glowing reviews, all you have to do is go to KnoxvilleSmiles.com and you'll see how people truly feel about them. Malone Dentistry. This is Dealing with Life. We'll have more with Jonathon Geppert and his amazing story in just moments.
My whole world is caving in, but I feel you now more than I did then. God, I wanna know you more. Maybe this is how it starts. I find you when I fall apart. Who says you gotta have it all figured out? Who says you'll never feel alone in the crowd? Who says you gotta be like everyone else? Who says? Who says? Who says?
You are listening to Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith. This is a show we do every single week at this time. But you know, if you missed it, or if you want somebody else to have the benefit of hearing this story today, it's always on www.dealingwithlife.net. All of the archived shows you can find through that, and you can share it with other people. Jonathon Geppert is with me today. This show, by the way, brought to you by Malone Dentistry. Jonathon is a counselor and teacher at True Purpose Ministries. But you, Jonathon, you were part of the program.
That's correct. Yes.
And you even you got evicted once, and then Russ Owens found it in his heart, saw potential in you, and asked you to come back even quicker than the allotted time that they usually have. And you were in the culinary arts, trying to search skills and find things, and then that fell apart.
And then when I started at True Purpose, I was going to the Lost Sheep Ministries and volunteering there,
Okay.
And feeding the homeless under the bridge and everything like that.
Sure.
And then I was going to culinary and was working at the convention center. Did that for several months, and then a couple guys left, and anyway,
You couldn't go alone.
Couldn't go alone, so here I was, kind of sent back to Lost Sheep, and
It felt like a demotion.
Felt
I'm
like
sure.
a demotion again.
Yeah.
Like, here I am again. What's going on here? But in that, I believe I really saw who God was and who my identity is in Him.
How's that?
Well, I was working there one day, and I brought a little pocket Bible, and I put it in my pocket, and I'm sitting there, I'm breaking boxes down, and I'm just thinking, I'm just meditating and praying. Speak to me, Lord. Show me something.
Yeah.
And so in that,
Why am I back here? What's going on?
right?
Yeah.
In that, I'm on the way to the dumpster, and I look over at one of the boxes I'm breaking down, and it has the name John on it, so it caught my attention.
Okay.
And then it said 444 next to it, and I'm like, 444, okay. And then at that moment, I heard the Holy Spirit speak to me and say, go to John 4:44 in your Bible. And I was like, okay. I pulled it out of my pocket, and I flipped it open, and it says, Jesus pointed out that a prophet is without honor in his hometown. And so I was like, okay. I didn't really
what does that
understand
mean?
it
Yeah.
for the most part at that time, but so I kept breaking boxes down. Well, all of a sudden, this guy backs into the bay with a truck, and on the back of his truck it says Jabez Trucking, and Jabez, and I was like, and on his tag, his license plate, it said Jabez 44. And I'm like, okay, Lord, you just spoke to me with these fours, so
Sure.
you're speaking to me, okay. So I run up to him, and I'm like, hey, man, what's going on, and so he tells me that Jabez is, the prayer of Jabez,
Right.
About expanding territory, and which just so happens to be in 1 Chronicles chapter 4.
Okay.
So I asked him about the 44, and he said, well, my mom always told me it meant angelic protection, so I figured I needed double protection. And I was
All
like, okay.
Okay.
Well, the guy had fruit on his truck, that he was delivering.
Okay.
And so I take the fruit down. I got it on the pallet, and I'm pushing it. I'm taking it over there, and as I'm letting it down, I look on, and there's a box that says 6:14, and I heard the Holy Spirit again say, "Now go to John 6:14." And so I flipped to it real fast, and it said, "And after seeing the miraculous signs, they said, 'Surely this is the prophet who has come into the world.'" And so I was like, when I saw that, it was like an answer almost to the question
Sure.
that was posed in John 4:44, and I was like, okay. And so at that moment, I knew that God was speaking to me, and He had a plan and a purpose for me, and so I just started becoming very observant of what was going on around me.
Yeah. That God really does speak to us in all kinds of different ways.
Right.
We just don't open our eyes to it.
Yeah, and that's true. And even in just little things, I got married. I actually ended up getting married after I graduated the program. Got married on April the 8th. But I was kind of just messing around one day, and I was like, well, I met my wife on June the 6th of 2014, and I asked her to marry me on August 24th of 2015. Okay. So I punched those two dates in the computer, and I hit enter. 444 days between those two dates.
Really?
And so it was like, God had His fingerprint even on that when, it's just amazing how he calculated all that.
Yeah.
And then
He saw it happening.
Also came into the program in October of 2015 and graduated in December of 2016. I punched those two dates in. There was 444 days between those two dates. And that wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have got evicted 4 months in and then came back on leap day, which only happens every 4 years.
Sure.
So he was speaking to me through this 4, and I did more research on it, and 4 is very powerful. It's actually the 4th letter in the Hebrew alphabet is the Dalet, and the symbol for it is an open door. And the Lord was basically telling me, look, I've placed before you an open door, and I'm trying to show you how to walk through it.
Yeah.
And so, he really identified, he really showed Himself to me, and He showed off too in all of that.
But you had to be in a place where you were observing it.
I did, and I really started to look around and pay attention and start listening. I used to, when I prayed, I would just pray and amen, and that's it. But now it's like, instead of talking, I was listening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
instead of just going through the asking list, the Santa list, as I call it sometimes. Yeah, you were thanking and you were searching and looking.
Right. And so because of that, and I saw where He had strategically placed, it wasn't just happenstance, and it was strategically placed, all these things, that around me and how everything worked out. I started saying, okay, if he's putting His fingerprint there where I wasn't even really paying attention at the time, but it was later when I looked back and saw it.
Right.
What is he really put His finger on just right here around me? He's obviously speaking. And so when I really started to get into that mindset, I saw God and I heard God speaking everywhere.
Isn't that crazy? Sometimes it's just like, yeah, coincidence, whatever. But of course, coincidence to me is God just doing it anonymously.
Right.
But, it's empowering to realize He's going to go to that much trouble for you.
Right.
What else is He going to do? And if He loves me that much, man, I can do anything.
Well, and I had a revelation a little bit later on, too, and the revelation involved something. He was showing me something about China, and then I dreamt of a movie. Jumanji. I dreamt of that movie for some reason, but they had a new one come out, and it's called Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah,
and I remember that's a Guns N' Roses song, but their last album was called Chinese Democracy, and so it was like He had been speaking to me about China, and so I had a dream that led me there, in my thinking, and then I heard God speak to me and said, "I did that for you." I inspired them to name that album that so that it would give you this revelation today.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, God, you care about me that much,
it's really there. So now you are a trainer, counselor, teacher at True Purpose Ministry.
Yes.
Talk about that. Because you were a student.
I was a student.
And it obviously took your heart that much to be a part of it and to help others.
It did. And really, it's such an honor to be able to sit in the seat that I do now and help these guys, because I see them in me, when my old self, and it gives me such hope, and also increases my faith when I see guys come in one way but leave another way.
Yeah,
and then, but it also keeps me on the right path as well, because
you saw how you can see over and over
again, and it's a reminder, a valuable reminder, of
how
where
your life can be destroyed,
how it can be with just just a one split second decision or a bad choice. and to go the wrong way.
How empowering that is, though.
Right, and then also, with the revelation and stuff that I started receiving, I believe it's my duty and my responsibility to share those revelations with the students there, and that's a key to them to helping in their recovery as well. Because without that valuable revelation, sometimes the light doesn't turn on, and we're not able to see, and we kind of go back to what we're doing.
But they see you and they relate to you because you were there.
Right. I think that's very important too, because if I was just some guy coming in, that had never went through addiction, never experienced any of this stuff, then my word really probably wouldn't have as much weight as it does.
And that's the way God uses our difficult circumstances, our terrible choices, and He can turn them into blessings by giving us the opportunity to help others.
Right.
It's so powerful. My goodness. And that's not all you do there. You also, what else do you do at True Purpose?
Well, I teach there. Usually, maybe once or twice a week, I'll teach a class.
Okay.
And usually it's biblical class. It's about how we're sons. We're sons of God. That's what we believe in there. We also believe in Hebrews 4:12 is one of our main scriptures there, and it says, "For the word of God is living and active, and is able to divide soul and spirit. It's sharper than any two-edged sword, and it's a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart."
Yeah.
And so we have a holistic approach there, mind, soul, and body, and the spirit. Really, the spirit and the soul are kind of almost joined, and then you see the Word of God come in and separate, because your soul, it has to do with your mind, your will, and emotion, and you can almost, when you come to a decision or anything like that, you can remove anything that is of you in a decision, so that you're completely and 100% led by the Spirit.
Yeah, and in line with God's
Right.
true purpose in your life.
Right.
What an appropriate name that is, and just that name alone makes you. It offers hope.
That's right.
Incredible. Jonathon Geppert is with us, a counselor, teacher at True Purpose Ministry, also a writer, and we're going to get into that in just a second. A songwriter, musician, and just what an inspiring story. Just bless you for offering your life and your purpose to glorify God. This is Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker. Today's program brought to you by Malone Dentistry. We will deal with more in just a second.
Just know you're not alone, 'cause I'm gonna make this place your home. I've seen miracles just happen, silent prayers get answered, broken hearts become brand new. That's what faith can do.
You are listening to Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith. We have been talking with Jonathon Geppert of True Purpose Ministries and finding his story about redemption, about inspiration, about using your choices to turn around somebody else's life. Only God could do that. Today's program brought to you by Malone Dentistry. Jonathon, thank you so much for offering your life and your testimony for people to share and to find hope in.
Well, thank you for having me, Tom.
So this final segment, I want to talk a little bit about, not only are you a counselor and teacher at True Purpose, but you also have other duties. You are part of the administration, right?
Yes. I am the administrative director there. And that, really is a very tedious job because I'm constantly in contact with probation officers and the courts and accepting people into the program.
Right.
I go through, go through applications, and
Oh my.
And that's kind of a hard thing. And sometimes, I'm just relying on the Holy Spirit sometimes to tell me if this is a good fit or not.
Okay.
Because some guys may have a long record and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you don't have a lot to go on.
No, don't have a lot to go on as far as interview process. There's a lot of stuff that you can make. People can put on, what they want you to know about them and everything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
There's only some things that just come down to what the Holy Spirit kind of nudges you with, and so you have to kind of go with that.
And you got to be open enough to listen,
Right.
as well. But you also write. You're a grant writer.
Yes.
What is that?
Well, I was fortunate enough to, just by, I guess, my honoring my commitment and being faithful to True Purpose, they were faithful to me and sent me to UT's grant writing course, and I finished that and got certified grant writing. And basically, True Purpose is a nonprofit organization, and
Yeah, money just doesn't come out of the sky.
doesn't just come out of the sky. And so there are organizations out there that are setting aside money for specifically what we do, and they may not even know that we're there.
Yeah.
And so it's,
You connect.
I do research and find money that's sitting there and say, hey, you're interested in this, and this is what we're actually doing over here. So I want to show you how you can contribute to that by giving us your money, and we'll use it to see your goal actually be accomplished.
God saw that you had a talent, and you probably didn't even. I mean, I know you're a writer, and you've written a lot of. So you're a songwriter, and you even write poetry, and
Right.
that's very powerful. One thing I want to ask you is, what do you say? Say a new person comes in the program, and they're sitting there. What do you say from your experience of being where they were? What do you offer? What can you say to somebody?
Well, of course, I tell them, I say, look, and a lot of times people will be hard just coming into a program. They want to leave, they want to get out of there, and I'll say, look, God's not caught off guard. When He brought you here, He stepped in your life and said no to the direction you were going in.
Wow.
And He loves you that much that He's going to step in and protect you from being hurt or hurting other people, and He really wants you to say, okay, here I am. And so He's not caught off guard by you being there, and so just listen. Just listen. Just stand still. It talks about putting on the whole armor of God, but when you've done everything to stand therefore. Sometimes you just have to be quiet and just be still and know that He's God, and say, you know what, I did this. I tried to be in control all these years in my life, and it led me here. If I was good at being in control of my own life, I wouldn't be here. Now.
Right?
And it's just really just allowing yourself to release control, and that's the biggest part. I've seen even with myself and with new guys coming into the program is just release control, and God's not caught off guard, and He's got a plan for you. Jeremiah 29:11, God has a plan for him to give you a future and a hope, not to hurt you, not to harm you. It's really because God has a perspective of infinite wisdom, and that's the thing that we lack really, is that infinite wisdom perspective.
Sure. We think we know.
Right. It's like being on a Ferris wheel. If you're on the bottom rung, you can't see anything, but when you're on the top, you can really get a layout of the land and see really what's going on. And that's really where God is. He's up there and is able to see things before they come. And so if you're paying attention, He'll lead you and guide you and direct you, and open the doors for you at the right moment, and just by being led by the Spirit.
Yeah. This moment may seem a little hopeless, but stop and look and try to envision what He's doing in your life.
Right.
How powerful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me again.
You guys at True Purpose are really making a difference in a lot of people's lives. How does one get connected with True Purpose?
Well, we have 4 different places, one in Maryville, one in Knoxville, one in Sweetwater, also one in Warsaw, Indiana. I deal with the one in Knoxville. That's where I'm at. That's my home base is in Knoxville, and our office number there is 865-247-8066. Okay. That's the office number. Also, we have an email address, truepurpose@newlifeknox.com. Okay. That's our email, and then also on Facebook we have True Purpose Knoxville as our Facebook name there, and so you can send us a message, contact us on there if you need help. or if you want to help.
Yeah. There's two-way street there.
Yeah.
If you have things that you can offer True Purpose,
right. We're always looking for. We house about 30 guys there at the Knoxville location.
Yeah.
And so food, clothing, any hygiene products.
Wow. Because this isn't just a weekly meeting or something like that.
Right.
They live there.
It's a 12-month program. Sometimes we have guys who come directly from jail and they're only wearing the clothes that are on their back.
Wow.
And so, all of in order to satisfy that need, we rely on the community who have a desire to donate or to just use their resources to help us, and really it helps the community as a whole.
Oh, absolutely.
At the end,
transforming lives.
It does.
It really does. That's incredible. Jonathon Geppert, thank you so much for what you do, for sharing your story and offering hope. Some people may be in the midst of real problems, and through your testimony, it's proof positive that there's hope in any situation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker. We do this every single week at this time. Please join us again. If you missed any part of this show or you want somebody else to hear it, go to www.dealingwithlife.net.
You speak